Well, Werewolf by Night has finally dropped on Disney+, and I have to say, I am not disappointed. Not only is this a fun monster ride from the Marvel Universe, it really does set up some cool details for the future of the MCU. Let's take a couple minutes to talk about the special and what particular franchise I think it is setting up. Well, Werewolf by Night finally dropped today on Disney+, and all in all, I think most fans are loving what Marvel gave us here. Now, the story does a lot in 50 minutes, and really sets up an interesting future for the monster side of the Marvel Universe moving forward. In the feature, we got introduced to a lot of characters. We actually got to know, of course, Werewolf by Night himself, Jack Russell, and Elsa Bloodstone, who I really think is going to play a massive role in the MCU moving forward. We also got what I really think is a pretty awesome version of the Man-Thing, or as his friends call him, Ted. All three characters were introduced within the House Bloodstone, giving us a lot of new details in the MCU, and if you're a comic book fan, you know what many of these things mean. Now, the story itself was pretty straightforward. A group of hunters was gathered to see who would inherit the Bloodstone itself. This is what granted Ulysses Bloodstone long life and the ability to battle monsters for centuries, and multiple hunters showed up. As the story unfolds, we find out Jack is really there to free his friend, the Man-Thing, who is the prey of this hunt, and him and Elsa eventually team up, leading to a really great conclusion in the story. Now, not only do we find out about Jack's werewolf nature, but Elsa does eventually end up with the Bloodstone, and we get to see the Man-Thing use his powers on screen, and I have to say that might have been my favorite part of the feature. Now, once the story starts to close up, we have a lot of things happening in the Marvel Universe that lead me to believe we're headed in a very specific direction. Many fans have speculated we're heading towards a Midnight Suns movie, and that might be the case, but I don't think that's what this is setting up. I think in the case of Midnight Suns, it might just be giving some supernatural flavor to the Marvel Universe. I actually think this is headed in quite the different direction. The special presentation left us off with Elsa inheriting the mansion and the Bloodstone, and Jack Russell, now back in his human form, and Man-Thing bonding over a campfire after their exciting night. Now, if you're a fan of Marvel Comics, you know that all three of these characters play a pretty big role in one specific team-up franchise, and that would be Legion of Monsters. Now, if you don't know who the Legion of Monsters are, that's perfectly okay. They're not that well known in Marvel Comics, but they made their first appearance way back in Marvel Premiere number 28 in 1975. They were created by Bill Matino, Frank Robbins, and Steve Gann. And quite honestly, the group itself is pretty much Marvel's team-up of Universal Monsters. Now, in the comics, you see multiple iterations of the team, but typically the members include Elsa Bloodstone, Man-Thing, Werewolf by Night, the Living Mummy, the Manphibian, and even Morbius and Ghost Rider, giving them a lineup unlike anything else in Marvel Comics. Now, originally in the comics, the Legion was brought together by chance. They were investigating something called the Starseed, which was this benevolent entity of an elder race. Now, the character itself has not appeared that much in Marvel Comics, but by appearing on Earth, it brought together the original team of Werewolf by Night, Morbius, Ghost Rider, and Man-Thing. Over time in the comics, the team has split up and reformed a couple of times, with various iterations of the group. But their core focus is pretty much exactly what we saw in this series. Remember, Jack was there to protect the Man-Thing, and that's exactly what the Legion of Monsters does. It protects monsters that are being hunted down and killed. If you're a fan of monster movies, you know one of the things about them that makes them unique is you have these creatures that look horrible on the outside, but you relate to the humanity on the inside. We actually saw a lot of that in Werewolf by Night, and that's why I think we are headed into a Legion of Monsters franchise. Now, the group's missions to protect monsters are not all that they do. They also have an interesting list of enemies, which include one that may appear in multiple franchises, and that would be Dracula. Dracula has been a long-rumored entry into the MCU, and many people think he will be the focus of the Blade movie, so the idea that both Blade and a group of hero monster fighters, as well as the Legion of Monsters, could eventually come together to face off with Dracula could be an Avengers-level event. Now, where Marvel takes this and who this puts them up against going down the road, we're going to have to wait and see. I could totally see a series, movie, or maybe even another special like this one that sees the Legion set out to save other monsters from various hunters. Actually, in the comics, they even went into the Morlock tunnels and started a monster metropolis where monsters could live in peace. We're going to have to wait and see what Marvel does with these characters, but given what happened in the show, I could totally see this happening because this is exactly the tone this show set out. Now, obviously, we're going to be covering everything werewolf and monsters from the MCU, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of the full moon reports. But until we know more, what do you guys think? What did you think of Marvel's first special presentation in Werewolf by Night? And do you think Marvel is setting the pieces in place for a Legion of Monsters franchise? Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you hit like, click subscribe, and if you don't ring that bell, you won't get any updates. Peace.